Hello, welcome to Part 5 in our Star Trek Online Shipbuilding Basics series. In this series, we will go over everything you need to know to set up your character and ships, with both beginner and budget-friendly options, as well as premium endgame setups. In this video, we will be going over ship gear and weapons. For this video, I will be using the Achilles, but you can apply this information to any ship. In this game, there are 3 types of energy weapon builds: beam arrays, dual beam banks, and cannons. Energy weapons come in 6 different energy types, with each energy type having many different subtypes. Phaser builds are popular right now, but you can make a viable energy weapon build from any energy weapon type. What is important is to make sure all your energy weapons are the same type. They can be from different subtypes. For example, it is perfectly fine to mix agony phasers and covert phasers, but you wouldn't want to also run a Viridian plasma weapon with them. On the Achilles, I have a phaser cannon build. For this build, I am running the Terran Task Force Phaser Dual Heavy Cannons. These are also available as disruptors, if you wanted to run a disruptor build, and also available as a beam array, if you wanted to run beams instead of cannons. In any build, the Terran Task Force weapon is going to be a part of it. These all come from the Terran Task Force reputation. Then, I have 4 sensor-linked phaser dual heavy cannons. These are lockbox weapons, also available on the exchange, but you could use any flavor of phaser dual heavy cannons you like with this build. If you prefer to run a beam build, you could simply swap these out for either beam arrays or dual beam banks. In my rear weapon slots, I have the omnidirectional Pavan Proton beam array. This omnidirectional array is unique in that, even though it is a beam weapon, it is affected by cannon firing modes. When you activate cannon scatter volley, it gets beam fire at will added to it. When you activate cannon rapid fire, it gets beam overload added to it. This, combined with its proc, makes it a must-have for any build. The second rear slot can be any phaser turret, doesn't matter which type. This ship comes with an experimental weapon slot, for which we keep the prototype phaser hexa cannons that come with the ship. The hexa cannons are by far the best performing experimental weapon for any ship with a slot for them, even if you don't run phaser damage. Before we get to ship equipment, a quick word from our sponsor, Lobby Consortium. Lobby Consortium has everything you need for your Star Trek Online adventures: the latest promotional, lockbox, and Lobby ships, energy credits, master keys, costumes, and more. Lobby Consortium is run by longtime players of Star Trek Online with extensive knowledge of the game. When you buy from Lobby Consortium, you can expect fast, professional, and discreet service. Check out lobbyconsortium.com today. Now we are going to look at the gear for your ship. The deflector and impulse engine are pretty standard on every build these days. For the deflector, I have the Elite Fleet Intervention Proto-Matter Deflector Array. This deflector will provide you with a crit chance and crit damage buff based on your current hull percentage. When your hull is full, it will be 4% crit chance and 15% crit severity. The lower your hull drops, the less of a buff you receive. This deflector comes from your fleet colony holding. The impulse engine is the prevailing innovated impulse engine from the competitive reputation. When you activate a weapon firing mode ability, like beam fire at will or cannon scatter volley, you will get a 5-second buff to speed and turn rate. For the warp core and shields, I have the mycelial harmonic warp core and the Tilly's Review pending modified shield. These two are being used for the added survivability that the 2-set bonus gives, with 120% increase to hull regeneration. The other option for your warp core is the Tholian nucleating warp core. This was an event reward and is currently not available if you don't have it. This core will make enemies you destroy drop warp crystals that will damage other enemies they hit, or give shields to allies. It is a very strong option if you have it. For shields, you also have the option of the Khitomer Alliance Regenerative Shield Array. Every time a shield facing drops to 0, the next enemy to damage that face will take anti-proton damage as well as anti-proton damage over time for 6 seconds. This can add up to a lot of damage. This shield was also an event reward. Now that we have covered weapons and gear, we come to consoles. For any energy weapons build, you want as many isomagnetic plasma distribution manifolds as you can fit, with the damage modifier for your type of damage, in this case phaser. These can be crafted or bought on the exchange. We are able to fit 5 of them on this ship. For the rest of my consoles, I have adaptive emergency systems and the flagship tactical computer, both of which come from the flagship bundle. Adaptive emergency systems gives you a 30% damage bonus for 30 seconds, and flagship tactical computer gives you a 17.8% passive energy weapon damage buff and 33% firing cycle haste for 15 seconds when activated. Next, we have the Fleet Power Network Array, which comes from the Z Storeship Awani command carrier. This console gives you and your team a 50 to 125% firing cycle haste buff for 35 seconds, scaling off your aux power. Then we have the immolating phaser lance off the lockbox ship Deimos. It gives a passive 15.8% phaser damage buff and 43.8 points into shield penetration. On activation, it fires a phaser lance doing heavy damage and can be activated every 5 seconds. This console also serves to keep your 5 stacks of universal designs up, as every activation of it counts for the trait. Next, we have the Domino. This console came from an old event ship, the Bajoran Interceptor, which is now available in the Phoenix store. This console gives you a passive 15% phaser damage buff, and when activated a 25% firing cycle haste and 25% all damage buff for 10 seconds, which can be extended to up to 30 seconds by killing targets. Now we have the Custom Power Matrix. This console is off the Winter event ship, which is still available for buyout. This console is unique in that it provides different buffs depending where you slot it. In my case, I put it in a tactical slot for plus 20 engine power. The console has 3 toggles that will cost you 15 power from your engines, shields, and aux power to have active. They give 20% firing cycle haste, 15% crit severity, and 5% crit chance for as long as you leave them toggled on. Next, we have the Dynamic Power Redistributor module, also known as DPRM. It gives a 19% passive buff to energy weapon damage, and when activated a 40% damage buff for 20 seconds. This comes off the lockbox ship Atlas. Our last 2 consoles are purely passive, with no abilities to activate on them. The first is Lorca's Custom Fire Controls. It gives a 3.9% crit chance, 7.9 weapon power buff, and 157 points into Starship Shield penetration skill. This console comes from the Discovery Reputation. The last console is the Shield Absorptive Frequency Generator, which comes from the Valdor Heavy Warbird that is available to purchase for dilithium. This console gives all of your weapons the chance to heal your shields for 200% of the outgoing damage. This is a great shield heal, often responsible for more than 80% of my healing. This concludes Starship Weapons and Gear video. If you found it helpful, please like and subscribe for more Star Trek Online videos. Be sure to check out our next video in this series covering Bridge Officer abilities. See you out there.